Welcome to CapStar. In this episode, we're going to be talking about stateful search. So what is a stateful search on PCAP files? Stateful search involves a search criteria that is not only on the current packets as you go through a PCAP file. It depends on conditions on the other packets as well. For example, let's suppose we want to find all the TCP handshake packets in a PCAP file. Now it is easy to get the first two packets, TCP SYN packet and SYN-ACK packets, because all we need to look at is whether the current packets contains a SYN bit. However, it's hard to capture only the TCP ACK packet that is in the TCP handshake. The reason is that the TCP ACK packet happened many times throughout the TCP session. You want to get only the first one. So when you go through a TCP session, go through packets in a session, and if you look at a TCP ACK packet, by looking at only the packet, you wouldn't know whether to keep it or throw it away. For another example, let's look at the scenario where we want to get all the HTTP requests whose response code are 500. And this again is a stateful search, because when you look at HTTP request, you can't decide whether you want to keep it or throw it away because you haven't seen the TCP response code yet. So here are two simple examples of stateful search. And stateful search is hard to do on WireShark, but it's very easy on CapStar. We're going to see some demos. So first, let's pick the PCAP we want to look into. Let's pick a simple PCAP called http1.pcap, and so here's a short script that will capture only the TCP handshake packets. The logic is very simple, and the key point is that there is a per session variable called session.SYN-ACK. If this is turned on, that means we have SYN and TCP ACK. In the beginning, when we are looking at the first TCP ACK packet, this variable is equal to 0. And that helps us decide whether to keep a SYN packet or not. So let's look at this script. It's actually very simple. So this case is actually typical. So if we look at a TCP packet, if it has a SYN bit, then we will return 1, meaning that we're going to keep this packet. If this is the flag is ACK, then we look at the SYN-ACK flag. If this is 0, that means that we haven't seen it before. We're going to set this variable to be 1 and return 1, meaning that we're going to keep this TCP ACK packet. Now imagine when we see other TCP ACK packets in this session. At that time, when we come here, this SYN-ACK flag is already turned on, so it will jump out of this. In other words, it will not be return 1. It will just jump out of this. So it will be thrown away. And this is how we get the TCP handshake packets. Let's run this. Okay, so clearly we see it extracted only the TCP handshake packets. Let's look at the HTTP case. So for that, we use a slightly different example, because we want some sessions that has response code 500. So let's pick this one and load it into the system, and let's pick the script. So we enter the filter, and we pick the right. So this is a fairly simple script too, a little more complex, but I'll explain this later. It's fairly simple. It will find all the HTTP requests whose response code is equal to what you pass to it, 500, or you can pass a comma separate list of response codes. So let's run this. Okay, so we have a list of HTTP requests along with their responses, because we have decided to include the response in the script. We can easily remove it. To make sure that the script does what it does, We just look at follow TCP session and look at the data to see the response code. Show data in the session, and we can see that this is HTTP request, this is HTTP response, and response code is 500. Okay, so here we have demoed that it's very easy to do stateful search on CapStar platform. Hope this is useful for you. Thank you.